Welcome to the Ultra Origin series, where we hear from runners who recently finished their first ultra or completed a new distance. In these conversations, we celebrate regular people who are doing hard things. There's a lot we can learn and be inspired by from people just like you. In this episode, we meet Jim Witcombe, a fan of the channel who introduced himself at the Dead Horse Ranch aid station while I was running the Cocodona 250 and he was running the Sedona Canyons 125. 1 year ago, Jim tackled the Eldon Crest 36 miler as his first ultra marathon, and this year at the age of 65, he returned to Arizona to run and finish the Sedona Canyons 125. Jim trained without a coach using a self-designed schedule, and his journey highlights the importance of consistency in training. I hope you enjoy our conversation. All right, well, let's get into it. Jim Witcombe, thank you so much for joining me on the Ultra Origins series here on YouTube. I was so excited to get the chance to talk to you because we met in person when I was doing the Cocodona 250 and you were doing the Sedona Canyons 125. And it was a real honor for me to get to meet you, and you got to tell me a little bit about how you knew about who I was and how I had helped inspire you to do what you were doing. So I wanted to invite you here so that you could talk with the audience about your journey of becoming an ultra runner and now having completed the Sedona Canyons 125. By the way, congratulations on your finish. That's quite an accomplishment.
Thank you. Thank you, Wes. It's a heck of an adventure. And I appreciate this invite, you stepping out and just, talking to an absolute back of the packer. That's me. And yeah, I appreciate you giving us a voice out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are inspirational out there in this sport. I think that the people who are out there winning the races are incredible. The fact that they can run so fast, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, they're on a whole nother planet.
But they are on a different level from folks who are just getting started, and it's hard to relate, I think, to what their training schedules are. So I'd love to talk with you about how you got started and how you went from getting ready for your first ultra and how that first happened. So we will talk about Sedona Canyons 125, but let's rewind a little bit and talk about how you got into running and how you presumably went from not running to then completing your first ultra. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, so I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an outdoorsman. I do a lot of fishing, a lot of bow hunting, ice fishing, shed hunting, backpacking. That's my comfort zone, right? And so I've always kept in decent shape, and I've done some running. I've always ran a little bit, 2 to 5 miles, mostly to get in shape for the fall archery hunting seasons. I live at 5,600 feet here in Northwest New Mexico.
Okay. And
if you want to enjoy all those things I like to enjoy, you have to stay in some sort of reasonable shape. So I thought I'd always had endurance, and I've done a couple half marathons years ago. And, I think marathons are great if that's what you're into, but man, that is just not what I'm into. I want to be in the trails. I want to be in the mountains. I want to be in the dirt and, climb hills. It's just infinitely more interesting. It's just way more interesting. So I've always been intrigued by the longer distances. I retired about a year and a half ago, and I thought I'm going to, why not? When you retire, why not sign up for an ultra? Doesn't that make perfect sense, right?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
So I signed up for the Eldon Crest 38 last year, and it went okay. And then I did the ultra marathon math. Well, let's see, you 38 miles went okay. Let's carry the 2. Let's do something 3 times as far, right? Isn't that how that works?
It is.
So yeah, so that's what led me to the 125. Yeah, so I guess I've always tried to stay in somewhat of shape, but as a person gets older, you pack on a few pounds, and I've been blessed. I have good knees, really no injuries other than a few little nagging ones. We all have those, and but yeah, I just wanted to accept that challenge. And then guys like you make all these awesome videos, and so here we are.
So what kind of changes did you need to make or specifically train in order to get ready for your first ultra? Did you follow any kind of plan, or was there any regiment to how you got ready for Eldon Crest last year?
Yeah, definitely. And everyone repeats this when you listen to podcasts and stuff. Is just being consistent. You just have to be consistent. That's the one thing that I thought I was good at last year. because of my age, I didn't want to risk injury. So I did it last year and I did it this year. I run every other day.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
miss, but I run every other day. And then I just slowly through the months just increased my time on feet, whether it's running. I also do a lot of hiking in the spring, and I combine those two. But at the end of the week, kind of like in your vlogs, right? I want to see a lot of time on feet during the
Yeah.
week. And so
Right.
that's how I would, and it's a learning process. You try to be a student of the game and you try to listen to podcasts and watch videos and try to learn. And that first ultra it went okay, but it was a learning experience. It's a long ways. I mean, when the furthest I'd run before, well, I think I did 20. I did 20 one time during my training. I probably walked, I don't know, a mile and a half of it, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm slow as a glacier, right? Uh, I turned 65 last May, and I turned 65 5 days ahead of the race. And so
Okay. I love it.
when I'm on my game, I'm a 12-minute a mile guy. And now we live at elevation, and I run a lot of vertical terrain out here. I'm just slow, but I can go for a ways. And so yeah, you just try to keep building those small victories up to where it was amazing. If there's anything I could say, it's just amazing how strong you get when you do that. Like 3 or 4 months in, I could go out and run 13. I could run a half marathon 3 times a week, and it was just no big deal.
Yeah. Right.
It's just no big deal. And that's what I discovered last year, leading up to the Eldon Crest 36. That wow, I did a half marathon 3 times this week, and I'm not sore, I'm not stiff. I could do it tomorrow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It is.
Well, it might be amazing at 25, but it's really amazing last year I was 64. So yeah, that feels good.
Well, I think it's incredible to be able to do that sort of training volume as just a regular part of your life. When I ran my first half marathon, I remember it was one of the most difficult things I'd done at that point. I sort of set out to think to myself, I would love to be able to get to the point where I could run a half marathon like at the drop of a hat without having to specifically train for it. And then fast forward to what you and I are doing now, which is that you suddenly run half marathons just as a training run, not even a big deal. You don't
Yeah,
even call it a half marathon. It's just 13 miles
it's
on your
it's
feet.
yeah, it's Tuesday. You know.
That's that's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah.
So you said that it was a learning experience, your first ultra. Can you think of any key learnings that were really important for you in that first ultra that helped you as you moved on to the next race?
Yeah. First and foremost, take a headlamp.
Oh,
I assumed that I would be done in plenty of time, and I would have been. But coming down off of Eldon on the forest road, where you turn at that gate and get on that single track,
yeah.
I missed that corner
Oh,
somehow,
oh
and I
no.
went on down the road. So that added an hour and a half of my time. So yeah, I was the idiot that come across Heritage Square with my phone light out, crossing the finish line.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you think you're going to have this time, but yeah, go ahead and throw a headlamp in, because you never know. You could twist an ankle, or you're fighting blisters or whatever.
That's right.
But yeah, go ahead and throw that headlamp in. So yeah, that was my key things. But overall, really, I had a good day. No stomach issues, no blisters last year, and I would almost call this a highlight, rather than a learning. But when I got past where I'd ever run before, I got to out where you cross the highway, and you're approaching Eldon, and you're out in those big openings in the Ponderosas, and I'm past the 26-mile mark. So I'm past the marathon stage.
Yeah.
Wes, I felt like a superhero out there. It
Mm,
was like, I got Eldon in front of me, and I love to climb. I think that's one of my better suits. I can climb. I'm slow, but I don't have to stop and suck wind on my poles very much. I'm a pretty good climber, and man, I just felt it was just awesome. And that's why I signed up again, because you just chase that feeling.
right.
And then of course the climb was a butt kicker, as you know, and then got at the top. The aid station at the top is just fantastic. Oh my gosh, that was the first time I sat down. And then of course the descent into down to Heritage Square it's just a victory lap, And so, yeah, it was, other than my headlight debacle, it was a pretty solid day.
Yeah. Well, it is the best way to learn is to make a mistake or to put yourself in the situation where, oh no. So yeah, I'll bet you'll always have a headlamp in your pack no matter what.
Or two. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's great. So you had a successful finish at Eldon Crest last year, and then of course that motivated you to want to go farther. Did you choose Sedona Canyons because it was the similar course as what you had experienced last year?
Yeah. So I love Aravaipa does such a good job. They're just so solid. What Jamil's got going and the hard work that Steve puts in. I mean, that thing is a monster to put on. That Cocodona, that thing is a monster. And just hats off to Steve and all of his volunteers, and Jamil's vision for this event. It's just a monster. So number one, Aravaipa does a fantastic job. Their food is outstanding. Mm-hmm. And then of course the long cutoff. When you're an old guy like me, 75, you got 75 hours. That's a lot of time. That's a lot. So that was attractive. Yeah. Right. And then the fourth thing that is super important is the live tracking. That is so cool. That is so cool to allow your friends and family, because you know what? You can't hide, Wes. People know where you're at. Yeah. They know how slow you're going. It's like, look at this old so-and-so. Yeah. But along that same lines, you can't fake it. You're out there. They see this guy's 97 miles deep and he's still going. So that is super attractive to have that live tracking for your friends and family to keep track of you. So those four things are the main reason I signed up. It's just a great event.
Did you sign up right away after you had finished Eldon Crest, or did it take some time?
No, I thought about it hard. I knew there was going to be a price increase on Halloween, so I signed up in late October.
Okay.
I'd already started I come off a really physical archery elk hunt in September in Wyoming, and so I was in decent shape. Ultra running's a different type of in shape, and so I started training, and then I pulled the pin late October and signed up. And tried to keep it on the down low. I told a few friends, and of course they think you're wacko, and what's the farthest you ever run? Well, 38 miles. Oh, you're crazy. I love the training. I think that's important too. I love the training. I look forward to the training. Now, being retired, it's easier than working a full-time job and having kids. And I mean, I get that, but yeah, I look forward to the training. And
well, I think you have to, right? Because it's, when you talk about something like the Sedona Canyons 125, I think maybe regular people or non-experienced runners might just think that it's all about the event, that you run the event and that's where all the attention is paid. But that's not the actual case. No, because you spend days and weeks and months and so much time preparing for it that by the time you actually run the event, I mean, the event is, I think I've heard it said that the event is just like the icing on the cake. That's everything else is the work. It's the celebration is the actual event.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better. Yeah. You're on May 8th. That's when my race started. You're going to have a test, and you better have done your homework for that test, or you're not going to enjoy yourself. Like I said, I try to be a student of the game, and on my longer runs, experiment with your nutrition, salt tabs, your pack, all the stuff you have to carry. And so you try to eliminate as many possibilities as you can. Now, that in the long race like that, something's going to go wrong, right? Yeah. Something's going to go wrong. And you just have to, you try to be positive and just try to roll with it. Just try to pivot,
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm curious to know, since you mentioned pack and hydration and your fueling, I'm sure that I know when I was getting started in ultras, I was trying to learn everything that people were using. Yep. Tell us a little bit about your gear choices that you are going to use in the race.
Yeah, I wrote it down because I got short memory. So I run Hoka shoes. I run the Stinsons. I like a little extra cushion because I'm delicate. I ran Darn Tough socks. And we can revisit the feet thing, but I did pre-tape for the race on about 3 spots: the back of my heel, the balls of my feet, and then the outside of my foot below my pinky toes. Um, I ended up getting some blisters on my toes, and that's another conversation. But anyway, so Darn Tough socks. I run an Ultimate Direction pack. It was the Onyx. I wish it was a little bigger. Those temps in that race got cold, and I was cutting it close. I never did put any leggings on, any bottoms on,
Yeah.
for the race. And I now know that in some of those sections, like I did Kasner in the dark, and got up on top, filled with water, and then had a middle of the night stretch to Schnebly. And I was thinking, if I rolled my ankle and I had to be out here for a little bit, I'd be in trouble.
Oh.
You'd be in trouble. So
Mm-hmm.
you have, I think, a little bigger for that type of race. A little bigger pack would, or at least the capacity to carry more, another layer. I mean, I had a little room, and I probably had enough room, but I should have had them with me.
Do you know what the liter capacity of that pack is?
I think it's 10, but
okay.
man, don't hold me to that.
Okay. Yeah.
It might be 12. I don't know. I had a puffy and, obviously all my stuff like that, but I was on the cutting edge of what, if I would have had to stop moving, I could have been.
Yeah.
It'd have been uncomfortable.
Yeah. Okay.
So learn that lesson. I had, of course, I had to have my West outdoor research hat, had to have that. And then, of course, I use the outdoor research gloves. I love fingerless gloves, black diamond poles. That's what I used. And of course I used for hydration, because the race featured gnarly. I trained on gnarly.
Oh, good.
I had a 2-liter bladder on my back, and then I had 2 soft flasks of gnarly. So I was carrying 3 liters of liquid.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. And then of course, my salt tabs, I was taking the salt stick tabs. I was trying to do 2 every 5 miles. I maybe should have gone by time instead of miles. And then also, and I was pretty good during the first day and a half. And when I would eat a meal, I wouldn't take the salt. I figured that food would substitute. But I did have some, and we'll talk about it later, but I did have some swelling issues in one foot. And I don't know if I dropped the ball on the salt, or it was just the shoes that I had were too tight and it didn't account for the swelling. But I did have some swelling on one foot on day 3. So,
okay.
But yeah, that's the gear I had. Yeah, I mean, I've had good luck with other hydration products,
Yeah.
But because they were running gnarly, that's what I trained with.
Well, I think that's a really smart move to do. A lot of races will tell you in advance what they're going to have at their aid stations, so that you can plan. And so training for that hydration or the fuel that they'll have will help you on race day if you're going to be taking stuff from the aid station. So that's real smart of you. I'm glad that you did that. It's a good thing for new people to learn it, to definitely follow your path for that.
And on your longer runs, test that out. Make sure. I've been lucky on the races I've had. It's probably because I'm going so darn slow, but haven't had any stomach issues to this point. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
That's basically the gear that I ran on that race.
And then, so you were training with those things. Did you continue the same every other day training schedule that you had done the year before?
I did. So I signed up in October. And so in October, I was doing 3 to 5 miles, just getting your legs under you, In November, I bumped that up a little bit, 5 to 7. And then December, I needed to bounce it up a little bit more, and I would start dipping into double digits. I'd get those 10s, those 11s. Double digit December, I called it, because once you turn the corner in January, you got 4 months.
Yeah.
You got 4 months. And so I felt I needed to ramp it up. In January, I was doing 10 to 13. And then in February, 13 to 15, and in March, 13 to 17. And I also, at that time of year, we do something. Like I say, I'm an outdoors guy. Well, in our area, all over the United States, deer and elk drop their antlers, in the springtime. They just fall off. We go out looking for them.
Oh, okay.
So I do a part of my training is hiking with a pack on. And that's like candy to me. Just it's just hiking, but it's a workout. You do 9 to 13 miles in a day, and I got a prop for you. This is what we're looking for.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
Yeah, I mean, this in our area. We have quite a few elk, and then of course a lot of mule deer, and so you're out there looking for these. They just fall off, right?
And are you
Um,
off trail wandering around when you're in the forest?
oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, way off trail, way off trail. Yeah, the remoter the better, and so I incorporate that. I'd run, and then when I get to go do that, that was like, man, I love that.
Yeah.
I take, we have a golden retriever, and he's incapable of fatigue, so he runs and runs and runs. Anyway, so I incorporate that hiking with a decently heavy pack on 22 pounds or so, and so you get a lot of climbing in. You get a lot of climbing, and I think that helps. In fact, I know it helps.
No, for sure. I mean, that is much more difficult terrain to be working on foot placement and just overall difficulty more than just being on a groomed trail or on a treadmill or something.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, wow, that's a really great workout.
Yes, I've always had I'm not a physio, but my stabilization muscles, your lower calves, your ankles, your shins, I've always had really strong, because I'm always on uneven terrain.
Yeah.
Because I'm out in the woods a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not on trail hardly ever. I don't want to be on a trail. I want to go see wilder country, And I think that helps. And it helps with your climbing. It has to, it has to.
Yeah, for sure.
And not only climb, but descending with weight, because as you know, there's a lot of super rocky, unrunnable. Well, for me, unrunnable descents, and you have to be able to navigate with your sticks. I love my sticks. I was on my sticks for 102 miles. I got my sticks out at let me see, the aid station at Deer Pass at mile 23, and I was on my sticks the rest of the time. And I don't apologize for it. I love my sticks. I'm 65. I don't care.
Right. Did you train with them a lot too? Did you use them in training?
I did. That's a different gait, Yeah, it's a different gait. I think the other thing, I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up, but you don't run 125 miles. I mean, the elites might, but we don't. I power hiked the majority of the course,
Yeah, right.
I ran through about 30 miles. And then and there was a lot of rocky stuff that was unrunnable, and then all of a sudden you're 40 miles deep, and it was a weird sensation. Like, I'm not sure I can run right now, because my legs were that fatigued, which we'll revisit that, what I would do different. Yeah. So I power hiked the back end of the course, but at the same time, it's still it's a long ways, and you just got to keep hustling.
Yeah,
you just got to hustle. There's lots of time, but you just got to hustle.
Well, whether you're running or hiking, like you say, 125 miles is a really long way. And before this, you hadn't run that far. So I'm just curious, as you're at the starting line, how prepared did you feel? Did you have nerves?
I was. The only thing that was going to take me out was a rolled ankle. I was super nervous. I was emotional. We can talk about my crew here in a little bit, but they were filming me. I could hardly talk, I could hardly because I knew it was a self-imposed butt kicking, but I was looking forward to it. I was so looking forward to running on different trails. We all run the same trails. We get bored out of our skull, right?
Yeah.
And I was so looking forward to seeing that train. And I knew I was going to coming into Sedona at sundown. Well, I felt I would be, and I did, but that was just spectacular. And just so I was so looking forward to seeing the terrain. I mean, that was definitely a highlight. I swear it was all uphill, Wes. I'm telling you, it was all uphill.
Well, you mentioned a crew. What was the situation with for those who don't know, the Sedona Canyons 125 and the Cocodona 250 this year had a slightly different courses due to some last minute permitting problems. And part of those changes meant that you weren't allowed to have crew at the same aid stations that we were having crew. So you had a crew at the start. When was the next time you were going to be seeing your crew on your course?
At mile 37 at Sedona.
Okay, all right. So you had to go through
Well,
Dead Horse Ranch State Park and then Deer Pass. So then the third
yep.
aid station is when you're going to see your crew again.
Well, we had a water drop at 30,
Yeah,
and
right.
then yes, 37 at Sedona. And I rolled into Sedona about right at dark, so 8:39, something like that. I was maybe a little bit behind where I thought I'd be, but the goal is to finish.
Yep.
The goal is to finish. Can I talk about my crew?
Talk about them.
Oh, finding a crew was turned out to be a little more challenging than I thought. I The very first guy I asked, my good friend, his name is also Jim, and because he's super smart, he's in shape, unflappable, right? So, a hunting buddy of mine. So I asked him. He goes, "Well, let me check my schedule. 10 days there." He goes, "Yeah, I'm in. My schedule's clear. I'll do it." Right on. So that was easy. And then I asked a couple of friends. Some of them run, some of them didn't, and one of them, he was kind of signed up, and then he had some family obligations, right? And so, okay, and so kind of late in the game, I took a tip from a note on Sally McRae's podcast that said, reach out to the ultra community. There's always people that
Oh,
want to pace. There's
yeah.
always people that want to pace. So I got on the Cocodona 250 Facebook page, and I advertised, hey, I'm an older but enthusiastic runner looking for a pacer / crew member. Pacing is not mandatory. I was willing to help out with financially, motels and stuff. And not 10 minutes went by, boom, I got a message on my phone. And it was a young lady, Jenny. She's from the East Coast. And she says, hey, I'm going to be out there. And she didn't know me from Adam, right?
Yeah.
And so we had some phone calls and got it all set up. And she was unbelievable. Just a ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
And I got so lucky. Which lends itself to how awesome the ultra community is. They're just, why did you want to do an ultra? Well, you start off as a physical challenge, but then you meet the community. And it was
Yeah.
like, holy cow, these people are solid. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
No.
so yeah, Jenny came out, and she was going to pace me from Munns to Fort Tuthill, and then Jim was going to bring me home from Walnut to Heritage Square.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, they were just can't say enough about them, because when you roll into an aid station, you're just hammered.
Yeah.
You're just hammered, and you just want to sit down, and to be able to sit down and them fill your bottles and bring you food, and you know whatever you need. That's You can do it by yourself, but it was way easier with the crew. And I cannot say enough nice things about those two.
Mm.
Helping an old guy chase his dream, that was cool.
Oh,
Can't say enough good things about him.
gosh, I love what you said about the community. I often repeat myself over and over again about how great the ultra community is, and there's even an extra level of great when it comes to the 200-mile community. There's just something about the people who's attracted to these events. They're just incredibly kind and generous to each other and willing to help strangers because, well, they're only strangers for a moment because pretty quickly they become a part of your extended family and
Yeah.
such good friends for life at that point, really.
So you got time for one more real quick story?
Of course we do.
So at the Crown King Scramble in late March, I was climbing away, and I bumped into a lady. Her name is Lori, and she lives in Arizona. And we shared 10 or 12 miles together, and we were climbing away. The Crown King Scramble, while not the first 37 of Cocodona, but it's knocking on the door, right?
Yeah, right.
It's I think it's 6,700 vertical feet
Okay.
in 50K. So it's a legit climb. We visited. Well, she's going to do the 125 right on, and she told me she had attempted the 250 the year before. She got to like mile 167, I think, and then the timers caught her, and so she got to do it again. And anyway, so I met her. Awesome lady. We had great conversations. Fast forward to the 125. We're coming from Jerome down the power line, that crappy power line that's super rocky. And, I walk up on this lady and I'm looking at her and I go, Lori, is that you? And she turns around and she couldn't believe it, right? So we took pictures and, all that fun stuff. We keep going, and then you get separated.
Yeah.
And then it's like 11 hours later, I'm at Sedona. I've eaten a huge meal. gotten myself taken care of, and I took off, and I am on cloud nine. I feel good. Here we go. Let's go, Kasner. Come on, baby. Here we go. And and I'm not out of Sedona 300 yards, and I run into this massive herd of javelina in the dark with my headlamp. You know, they're all over the place.
Oh my gosh.
You know, they didn't bother me. It didn't bother me a bit. And this lady walks up behind me, and I said, "Hey, check out our buddies up here." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, I wouldn't have never even seen them." And we walk a little bit further, and she catches me, and she comes up, she goes, "Well, Jim Witcombe, as I live and breathe, I can't believe I caught up with you." Well, anyway, Lori's awesome, man. She's about yay high. She looks like a librarian. She's tougher than woodpecker lips. Yeah. I'm not kidding. This lady is tough. And we made our way to Oak Creek, right? And with another super tough lady runner. And then we started our ascent up Kasner, and it was cold and windy. I had wet shoes. There's that whole decision of whether you take your shoes off or not when you cross the creek. I chose not to, and it went okay. But yeah, Kasner's legit, man. It's legit.
That climb it never ends. Yeah. We might still be climbing it right now. Yeah. And you said it was nighttime when you were doing that. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I left Sedona at 9:30 ish. So I was probably making that climb about midnight, somewhere in there, you know, and got up to the water drop. I don't know, 1:30, and then made my way on to Schnebly, you know?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And you'd see guys, the 250 guys taking dirt naps right in the ditch. Never saw that before. That was interesting. And they're just out. They're right. Like out, you know, and leave them alone. They're fine. Leave them alone. So
did you end up sleeping at all in the 125?
I wanted to. So when I got to Schnebly, got there about 4:30. So I did 55 miles in about 21 and a half hours.
Okay. Or
so, which I thought was unbelievable, you know. So I was gonna sleep there. So I crawled in the back. I have a pickup with a camper shell. Jim and Jenny sat up front, and I laid there till, I don't know, 6:30 or 7. I don't know if I slept, Wes. I tried to. You're kind of wound up.
Yeah.
You're trying to calm yourself. It felt good to get off my feet, to get that pressure off my hips and everything. My legs were good. Slightly, they were stiff, but they weren't sore, you know. But just that fog you get from not sleeping, you know. I mean, when I got up, I felt a little better. Had a pretty good breakfast, had some coffee, and then we had to drive up to Munns for our section, and then we took off. And Jenny was my pacer, and she went from there to Fort Tuthill with me. And then I did that 55 to 87. What is that? 32 miles. So I was on Thursday. I did that 32 miles. And I tried to sleep that night again, but kind of the same thing, just struggle.
Yeah.
I stopped and I rested, but did I sleep? I don't think I slept an hour, you know.
Well, I've heard that even if you lay down for a nap and you're unable to actually sleep, that it's still worth lying down for the amount of time you planned, just so that you at least have a break and your muscles can take a rest. And it's still a bit of a mental rest, even though you're not sleeping.
When you're out there on trail, you have to focus, because there's not many times, but a half a dozen times I came close to rolling an ankle on loose rocks and stuff. You have to pay attention when you get fatigued like that. Even on the last day, a couple times, like, hey, you're not done yet. You know, you're not done. You're close, but you're not done. You better focus, you know.
You commented earlier that you ended up with some swelling and some blisters. Where in the course did that start to raise their heads?
I started getting some stiffness where you tie your shoes on the top of your foot. And then as your foot bends up into your shin, I started getting some tightness right there, like on the second day. And then partway through the third day, which would be my last day, it was getting bad, and it just got worse as the day went along. And I don't know whether that swelling was because my shoes were too tight and that expansion had to go somewhere, and so it just went up. I don't know, for lack of a better word, kind of a donut just
Ah,
above my
interesting.
shoe on my ankle. And it hurt. I mean,
Mm,
at the end, the last 4 or 5 miles, it was pain level of, I mean, it was knocking on 5. It hurt,
okay.
I wasn't
Wow.
limping, but I was close. If
Hmm.
that would have happened on day 2, I'd have been in trouble.
Yeah.
I'd have been in trouble. So I'm definitely going to go up at least a half a size in shoe, maybe a full size. That's something I'll have to experiment with. I don't know. I don't know if it was a. I don't think it was a nutrition thing. Maybe it was a salt thing. I have listened to other podcasts where swelling is an issue with other people,
Hmm.
and a lot of other people go up in size. I didn't know that. It feel you've experienced this, Wes. It feels like there's a vice on your foot around the outside edge, right behind your pinky toe and your big toe, and it super uncomfortable.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
can imagine. Oh.
Yeah, and then blisters. They weren't. I mean, they were a couple of bottoms of a couple of toes. I got a blister. I put Leuko tape on them, and you just keep going.
Yeah.
I popped a couple, but I think I had like 4. I might explore toe socks next time. I know a lot of people run toe socks. I don't know anything about them. Or I'll have to tape some toes up. I don't know. What do you do?
I am a big fan of toe socks. I
Okay.
started running in the Injinji toe socks maybe when I did my first, maybe when I was getting ready for Moab 240, my first 200. I think that might have been when I started running in Injinji. And I love them. And I've actually, I love them so much that I used to wear them just for running, but now I've transitioned to where I have Injinjis in my life all the time. I wear them for my
Right.
casual socks too. I love them. So,
Right.
but they're not for everybody. So
I'll
definitely
definitely
worth
take,
trying though.
yeah, no, I'll definitely take a look at them. And then I have to bring this up. Wes, can we talk about chafing a little bit?
Chafing is is one of the things that all runners love to talk about.
Squirrel's Nut Butter is a sponsor for the race, and
Yeah.
I started using that last year, and I liked the product. It served me well. Wes, when I left Jerome, I was so lubed up I could have had sex with a rock, and I was, man, I was golden. And then all through during, and I would reapply, got to Jerome, I reapply, and then, but somehow during the second day, I started, my undercarriage was getting a little compromised,
Yeah.
and then by the time I got up from my rest Friday morning, I left Fort Tuthill at 3:10 in the morning. Once you get moving, it's not bad, but yeah, it's something that I struggle with, and I still have to figure that out. But anyway, yeah, it sucks. It
Yeah,
sucks.
it's a common problem, and
Yeah.
I have struggled to figure out how I can avoid chafing. And is it a clothing issue, or is it a lack of squirrel's nut butter or other kind of lubricant? I have a feeling that part of it is, and I think maybe my friend Dave, I asked him about it, but anyway, my friend suggested that part of it could be a sweat. Eventually, maybe when you left Jerome and you're all lubed up, you're not sweaty yet. But after a few days of a whole bunch of sweat, kind of trickling down your body and getting into all kinds of places, that salt can also build up. And of course, you've got the dust and
Oh yeah.
the all the other things that the desert's bringing you. Um, yeah, it might be the kind of thing where at aid stations it might be worth sort of seeing if you could get a towel or something and kind
Clean.
of clean up a little bit before you
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
fresh
Yeah.
get a new fresh layer of lube to head back out again with.
Right. I think yeah, baby wipes and just take care of yourself a little bit. Take the extra time to do that. It'd be worth it, and that's something I'm going to have to work on because that was it was uncomfortable on the third day for sure.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of
But
thing that you can't necessarily anticipate that in training. You can practice
no,
all kinds of scenarios, but you're not going to experience third day chafing until you're actually in the third day. Yeah,
yeah, for sure,
yeah.
for sure. Um,
Did you have any emotional low points? You've talked about some of your physical low points.
um, gosh, not really. Other than all three of the races have been, I tend to, I think I'm a kind of a positive person, and so I try not to let too much negative in. Try to surround myself with positive people. But as my foot started going downhill, my foot and shin area was getting more swollen. Once I got past mile 100 and still had to go up, excuse me, to the base of Eldon and around the base, it slowed me down. Like I said, I'm slow as a glacier. So if I'm power hiking and the terrain is moderate, I'm a 20-minute a mile hiker, 21 minutes a mile. And then as my foot started bothering me, and there was a little more elevation, now all of a sudden I'm 24, 25, 26 minutes a mile, sometimes 28 minutes a mile. And as that compounds, you got an 18-mile stretch and you're adding 4 or 5 minutes a mile. Well, now you're talking extra hours, right? And so that's kind of a bummer. You start doing the math in your head and it's like, well, I thought I was going to be done about 6:30. Well, now I'm going to be done, closer to, but you're still going to finish. Right. So yeah, that was kind of a bummer. And I didn't really have any preconceived time notions. I mean, it would have been awesome to get in around 48 hours, but that ship flew long ago. I finished in 61 and some change, which I didn't care,
Yeah. But you were still 14 hours ahead of the cutoff. That's great.
Yeah. Just finished. So, but no, not really. Okay. There was definitely some highs. Like I mentioned, one of the highs was after Jenny paced me from Munns to Fort Tuthill. We had to do an 8-mile loop because of the reroute. So at that intersection, she took off to go get her packet for her Eldon. I didn't tell you this, but she paced me for 24 miles on Thursday. She went to a motel, got some sleep. Then she ran the 38 miles on Friday.
Well, that's amazing.
That's a pacer for you.
Oh, wow.
Well, she passed me, of course,
I love it.
And I knew she would.
Yeah.
Right? And she was awesome. But during that 8-mile loop, the sun was going down, and how it is. I checked my phone. Friends and family were so encouraging, and you'd read some of those. I wouldn't respond to them because I was trying to save my battery for navigation.
Yeah.
You know how that goes. But I would just read them, and you just get emotional reading them. And I just remember I was in mile 80 to 87, and I felt so good. I mean, I was just rocking, had the headphones on, and it was amazing. I'm in the dark, and I just felt great, just felt like I just keep going. And I've heard you say, well, you when you have those highs, man, you kind of ride those as long as you can because lows are coming.
Yep.
When I just used that to get to Fort Tuthill, and then I ate this massive amount of food. And then this is at mile 87. My buddy Jim, he went and got it for me. And I said, Jim, let's fill all of my fluids. I'm just going to kick back in the front seat of the truck and you crawl in the back and sleep. And when I feel like I've had enough rest, I'm just going to go because we're going to finish tomorrow. It's Friday, right?
Yeah.
We're going to 38 miles. I've run this course from here, right? Did last year. So I feel like I'm kind of home. And, so I ate till about 11, and then I laid back in the truck, and we were in a super noisy part of the parking lot. You know how it is. Mm-hmm. You're smarter than this. I know that you and, oh, by the way, congratulations. I meant to tell you that right off the bat. Congratulations on your wedding.
Yeah, thank you.
That is just awesome.
We're so happy.
I wished I'd have said that right off the bat. Anyway, congratulations. But you and your wife are smarter. I know you go out and park where it's quiet, right? Somewhere where it's quiet. We didn't do that. We didn't do this. It was quite noisy, so I didn't hardly sleep at all. Finally, about 2:30, I just got up. It's like we got to get this done.
Yeah.
You waddle into the aid station there and fix yourself up in the restroom, and then get a little food and go. And it was cold, as you know.
It was cold.
It was 31. It was 31, and you got the smoke and the cold. But in the back of mind, we're going to finish this today. We're going to finish. And everyone you'd pass, they were all the same mindset. No, we're getting done today. What time do you think you're going? Oh, I'm going to be done by 7. Well, I didn't quite make it by 7, but we got it done. So, just an amazing experience,
Well, What was it like for you? What was your feeling when you crossed the finish line?
You know, I was more emotional last year, because I was by myself. I didn't have anybody. I did the whole thing by myself. And man, coming down past Beaver Liquors, I was like, got it done, man. And it just felt so good. This year, Jim was with me, so it was more, let's just get this thing finished, There, I couldn't run. Even to do the turn to go to the finish line, that little bitty stretch, that wasn't happening. And then at the very end, and this is nobody's fault, but it was kind of congested. There was a 250 runner in front of me, and I kind of held back, and I kind of gave him his space. It's like, no, him and his whole family, and we backed up a little bit. And then some other runners came in behind, and they were like off the charts excited, and they kind of blew past us. So it was kind of a cluster right there at the end. So all I wanted to do was finish, I just wanted to finish. Having my good friend Jim help me finish was awesome. Jenny was there. She'd waited in the cold. It's about 9:30. She waited in the cold. She handed me a beer, and got to meet some other runners, and it really sunk in the next day. Just that you got it done, because you're so tired. I mean, you've been up for 60 hours, and that's when it really sunk, but it felt good. It felt good to train hard and reap those benefits, that's super satisfying. As I said earlier, it would be super satisfying at 25, at 65 is pretty damn special, That feels good. That feels good. Yeah. I'm fortunate. I'm blessed that my legs and lungs are working good, and that I can, have the ability to do that. A lot of people don't, And it's cool. I've done 3 ultras, and I'm in my little Facebook family. Oh, Jim, you're a badass. Oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I am, Wes. I have to work so hard just to be average, right? Mm-hmm. I have to work so hard, right? The only thing badass that I do is I get up when it's time to go work out. I go work out, and in January when there's icicles hanging off of my hat, that's the only thing that. No, I'm not a badass. I'm just average. I'm just a really average guy that consistently did the work to try to achieve that goal. But no, I'm super average, and I'm so slow. Yeah. But
you did.
That's a cool thing. That's a cool thing about ultras. Nobody gives a crap about your pace.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Go have fun. We got a cheeseburger here in 10 miles. Let's go.
That's right.
Let's go. It's a neat sport. The other thing is, somebody mentioned I never thought of, maybe not so much in the 125, but in some of these other ultras, you're lined up with the best in the world.
Yeah.
What other sport does that? You're yourself, you're lined up with some, I mean, that men's field this year and the women's field, but that men's field this year was deep.
Yeah.
And what other sport you get to line up? Nobody gets to line up next to Michael Jordan, right? Nobody gets to do that. In the ultra world, you do. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, there's a lot it takes a lot of work, but there's a lot to like about running ultras,
Yeah.
And it's pretty satisfying.
I'm so glad that you found so much of that goodness through your experience. That makes me really happy. So you had generally a very successful run. You had a few physical problems, but not that bad. Yep. How was the recovery? How's that been for you?
It was the first 3 to 4 days was, I had ice on that foot. I was laying pretty low. And then I was beat up, you'd sleep for 7 hours. You'd get up, you'd eat, you'd be awake for 3 or 4 hours, and you'd feel like going to sleep again. Yeah. And so that's what you do. You'd sleep. And then by the end of the week, I was taking some short walks. I'd take the dog for a walk, and at the end of 2 weeks, a little bit more, maybe a little further. I'm talking a couple miles.
Mm-hmm.
We live right on the edge of town here, and I can be on the Jeep trails in 2 blocks. At the end of 3 weeks, I went and visited my dad in the Midwest, and I got on a treadmill back there and just did next to nothing, but just started that process.
Yeah.
And finally this week, I mean, we're almost 5 weeks out ish. And I've started, I'm back to running. I did 3 times this week.
Okay.
And I'm going slow. I don't have another race ahead of me. I'm just maintaining,
Yeah.
you know,
Running for pleasure.
yeah. Yeah. You want to try to keep that,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to keep it than it is to get it again.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
I got to be honest. I've been watching the sign up for the 125 for next year. I checked last night. There's 56 spots available. I'm probably going to do it again because it was just such a fantastic event.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you crazy people on the 250, that blew out in 11 days. So that got rid of all that craziness because people ask me, what are you going to do the 250? It's like, man, if you'd asked me that on day 3 of recovery, it's like, there is no way.
Right.
But it's a funny thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
A funny thing happens as you recover. And you start thinking these crazy thoughts like, well, let me do the math.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I'm gonna sign up for the 125 again.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear. Hopefully I'll see you there because our plan is I'm going to do the 250 and Leah has signed up for the 125. And so our plan is that I will run to Jerome and then join her for the second half of my race and we'll get to do her race together. So hopefully I'll be able to see you in Jerome.
That is awesome. Absolutely. That'd be awesome. Yeah. What a great idea.
Well, it wasn't it wasn't, I think we were talking about that as a possibility. And I think somebody we were talking to at maybe the finish line said that there was a couple who did that last year. And so we were like, oh, that's a really great idea. So anyway, that's what we've signed up for. And that's what we're going to work towards. And hopefully that works out.
Will that be her first 100?
It'll be her. Yes, it will be. She's doing the Javelina 100K this October. And then the Sedona Canyons 125 will be your first 100. That's right.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Oh, there's so many stories, but it's just a long ways, And I didn't have any doubts, I didn't have any, as long as I didn't get injured, I could finish it, I knew I could finish it. And that feels good, that feels good.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That's exciting for your wife, man. Imagine that finish line. Holy crap. That'll be good.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Now, you're making a documentary on this year's race?
I am. It's taking me a long time because I've got too many projects that are happening and there's just a lot going on. Sure. So I am behind where I'd like to be, but the plan is that I will eventually have a film of this year's run.
They're so well done.
Yeah.
And I've told people, check your YouTube stuff out. Just the way you incorporate the Google Earth images on the trail, it makes them look a lot easier than they are, of course. But they're just super well done. You're always so kind to the volunteers. That's something I tried to carry with me also. Be overly nice. I volunteered at Hard Rock last year. We live about 2 hours from Silverton, where the Hard Rock starts.
Yeah, cool.
And so I volunteered there last year. Got to meet Courtney Walter. That was cool.
Neat.
And it was a neat experience volunteering. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again this year. And I will get down to some Air Viper races and volunteer because they've been so good to me, and I need to pay them back.
Yeah. Well, thank you for volunteering. Everyone should. It's such a wonderful experience. And it is a really fun thing to do. It's not, it's work, but at the times that I have volunteered at aid stations, it's been so rewarding and so fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's a blast.
Well, and it's fun, and you learn. You learn that you pick up little snippets here and there, that's something you can use it. You see how people do things differently, Yeah, so I'll be doing more of that,
Yeah.
And at my age, I don't know how long I'm going to do this. Honestly, Sedona will probably be my A race again. Will I do one between here and there? I might go do the Crown King again. That was a cool race. It was sold out. That's a cool race. Crown King's a cool place.
Yeah, it
You
is.
know,
Yeah.
that's the Wild West up there, man. Uh, and so, yeah, Cindy came along with me. We had a great weekend, you know, and so I might do that again. It's a good fitness test, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Good to use. It's really helpful to use races like a 50K or a 50 miler, use a race as a training run because they've got all kinds of aids set up, and the logistics make it a lot easier for a long run as a trainer. And like you say, it's fitness test too. Check out where you're at as you're getting ready for the
Yeah,
event.
I was that was my biggest week training. Kind of touching on training again. I was trying to get 15 to 20 hours on feet at least per week in my heavy months of March and April, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I tapered at the end of April, of course, but the week I did Crown King, I got 33 hours on feet that week. That was a big week for me, you know. It might not be for some people, but it was for me at my age. And so, but what I would do differently is I need to have back to back. Remember, I went every other day, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I wasn't able to run deep into the race. There was so much of that stuff going to Fort Tupperville. It's so runnable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't. And even if you're doing that Social Security shuffle that I do, that 15, 16 minute a mile, you can cover some ground.
That's
you
right.
know,
Yeah.
you're shaving instead of 20 minutes a mile. Now you're doing 15, 16. Well, you do that for an 18-mile stretch. You've shaved some hours off.
That's right. Yeah.
And so that's one thing I will try to do is I definitely need to have those harder, maybe a 25 or 30-mile day, sleep for a little bit and hammer out another big day. Just take your legs to failure, you know.
That's right.
And you gotta know what that feels like, and then be able to move it, be able to run on that. Can I do it at my age? I don't know, but yeah. I definitely want to try to be able to move better. I think 61 hours. One of the things that when I looked at the stats, they had me, and I couldn't believe this, but in 61 hours they had me stationary for 22 hours, and it was like, there's no way I stood still that long, you know. But then I got to thinking about it. Well, there's 9 aid stations. Well, if you're a half an hour at every aid station, maybe longer.
Yeah.
And then your rest was 3 or 4 hours. Maybe I did eat up 22 hours. Well, that can certainly be shaved down.
That's right.
And I'd like to think I could knock off 8 or 10 hours off of that, you know. I don't know if I could get to 48. That would be monumental, but I think I could get solidly into the 50s, you know. I mean, just as a goal.
Yeah,
you know?
sure, right.
Just as a goal.
Yeah, that's cool. I love listening to you think about what you've learned from this experience and what you can apply to next year already. These things are so cool in terms of how they test us, but also how they teach us. And then it's really up to us to take that learning and to do something with it. And, you know, sometimes that learning is something we can take into just our normal lives and impacts our everyday decisions. Obviously, it really makes sense that you can learn for how you're going to run the next event. The Sedona Canyons 125 is really a special kind of thing because of its really long cutoff time. It becomes accessible to such a wider variety of users. And
yes.
The fact that you can be out there for 61 hours and still be well ahead of the cutoff, have a good experience. It
makes it super attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you that you had the opportunity. As we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to share that we didn't touch on that you can expand upon for our audience?
Anyone that's on the fence, it's scary. You know, it's scary to toe that line. Once you toe the line, it's good to be scared then, but it's more excitement because you've done your work.
That's right. Yeah.
I think there was about 280 runners in this race, 160 finish. So there was some attrition, right? And so unfortunate for some people. I don't know what all their stories were, and it could have happened to me if that swelling would have happened earlier. I could have been in trouble. Got lucky and it didn't. Anyone that is looking to do a longer distance or maybe their first ultra, I just can't say enough nice things about the ultra community. there's no a-holes out there. They will bend over. They want you to succeed.
Yeah.
They want you to succeed, and you don't have to run the whole way. Like I said, I was on my sticks for 102 miles, and I make no apologies about that. I don't care. Finish.
That's right.
Finish. There's something about when you tell your general friend circle, there's something about going over 100 miles. It gets people's attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows. Oh yeah, Jim. He's that little old fat guy that runs a little bit. Well, when you start knocking triple digit numbers around, it gets their attention, you know, and they look at you a little different. You know, they're like, holy crap, that's crazy. That's, you know, and you'll hear the same. I don't want to drive that far. You've heard that. How many times have you heard that? Right.
That's right.
It's such a neat feeling. And I would encourage people, man, kick that door in, sign up, and then commit to the training. Even if you have to hire a coach. I didn't hire a coach. I just kind of winged it and just added more mileage. And there was things I need to do, a little more strength training, maybe some more speed work, back-to-back hard days. I need to incorporate that. So yeah, there's things I can do. I watch your vlogs on what you do, you know, and there's plenty of ways to improve, you know.
Yeah, there's always more to learn on all levels. We could all do something a little bit better. That's for sure.
But just chasing that feeling of being so strong late in a race, that is, I just can't describe that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, half an hour later, you might feel like crap, but when you hit those high moments, and you're like, that's cool. It's like I said, especially being an older runner, you know. So it feels good.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. That's really special.
Yeah. I just appreciate this opportunity, Wes. I was an underground coal miner for 16 years, and that's what I retired from. So, you know, using a headlamp, you know, being in the dark, that's my comfort zone. It doesn't bother me a bit. And then being an outdoorsman, we run in headlamps a lot. Anyone, no matter what walk of life you come from, you can do this, you know. Just sign up and attack. Always move forward, you know. Oh, yeah, consistency is king, you know. Just get it done. And it'll pay off. But I just appreciate the opportunity, Wes, for you to take a, you know, ham and egger like me and just visit, you know, and I think that's pretty cool. And I'm really looking forward to anyone else you have these visits with, you know, that looking forward to that. So thank you.
Well, thank you for joining. It's a real pleasure for me to hear your story and share your story. I think that there's a lot of people who can learn from your experience and be inspired. I think the hardest thing is to sign up. And then, like you say, then it's all the training. And then when you get to the start line, then it's a celebration of all the work you've done. And it's so much fun to hear how that's gone for you. So thank you for joining us on this great conversation. And I look forward to seeing you on the trails and probably in Jerome next year at Sedona Canyons.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank
Jim.
you, Wes.
Thanks for your time. Thank you, Jim, for coming on and sharing your story. I really enjoyed hearing about your journey. If you have recently finished your first ultra, or if you've recently completed a major new distance and would like to share your story here in this series, go to onwardendurance.com and click on Ultra Origins at the top of the page. Thank you for watching. I look forward to sharing more Ultra Origin stories with you. Bye-bye.